topic, safe systems of work. Safe systems of work, you can say whatever documentation you develop, all high level or middle level or lower level structure of your system documentation, some way or another way it links to the safe system of work. We are developing all those system procedures and everything just to make sure while we are performing any sort of task or work within our company is safe enough. And I repeat again, either you are performing any activity or any processes there, divide in 3 domains: before, during, and after. What regulations related to HSE or health safety environment you need to apply and follow you. Let's take some example. Introduction to safe system of work. There would be like formal recorded, systematic examination of work, safe methods defined, and hazards are identified. To be effective, the SSW must bring together, safe system of work must bring together what? The people. Who is the SSW for? Either you are preparing safe work system for welders, for painters, for grinders, for the crane operators, what that system is all about. Process wise, area wise, department wise, accordingly you need to decide what level of competence or technical ability should they have actually. Project belong to electrical systems and you are hiring chemical engineer or deploying chemical engineer, how it would work, The project have a technical activity and it requires minimum 10 years experience professional and you are relying on the fresher. How come it would be possible? So if you don't meet the competence level according to the need of your project, the probability of accident, the likelihood of accident will go up. That is why we need to gather information before even we start risk assessment of that particular task or activity. Now, equipment, what equipment will be used? It is suitable to the job, right selection is there, technically sound, and what safety equipment will be required. And accordingly, the materials, what materials will be used or handled during the work, and how the environment where the work will be take place, and space, light, and temperature need to be critically ensured and monitored as well in such a way as to create a safe work method. And I hope you have clear understanding about method statement, or give us sometimes we say JSA, job safety analysis of that particular process. Sometimes we say the safe method statement to perform this activity. Give us some written statements, how you will perform this work safely. And Sadara as a role model, I'm sure, mashallah, your system is quite comprehensive, especially to tackle your contractors, whatever job they are going to perform at your site. Now, the introduction to safe system of work is linked to the risk assessments. And what we have to do, hazard identified and control recorded, documented, so the standard is clear, developed by the competent person with assistance from the workers. Don't do it individually. Any risk assessment you performed individually, it wouldn't be comprehensive. And why? Because of risk perception, because of risk profiling criteria. That how you're gonna decide individually, oh, that would be the likelihood, that would be the consequence. You need opinion of others, and those must be expert into that area. Developed by a competent person with assistance from workers, legally required in many circumstances, like employer responsibility is to prepare them, and of course workers responsibility is to follow them. And here again we can quote the reference of ILO Convention C-155, that employer responsibility, legal responsibility is to ensure the safe workplaces, ensure the right equipment and machinery is provided, ensuring the right set of PPs and training is provided. Safe system of work is also well established and implemented. This is employee's responsibility. And as per C-155 and R-64 conventions and recommendations of ILO, Even employer responsibility is to follow those regulations or kind of SOPs or procedures. So bear in mind, developing safe system of work, remember the words random. That means select the task, record steps or stages of the task, evaluate risk associated with each step, develop safe working method, implement safe working method, and monitor to ensure it is effective. But make sure we use the same sequence. For this random, the sequence is important. Like you select the task, you record all the steps, you chop up this elephant in different steps and evaluate each step, especially the risk associated with each step, and develop accordingly the safe working method. And then of course you have to implement and monitor to ensure it is effectively being followed and even well applied. And the benefit is zero accidents, zero injuries, zero harm to the environment, zero harm to the assets of the company. If any incident happened, that is a clear indicator your risk assessment is failed. Whatever existing control you approved or been failed. So you need to review again. That is why this is important to have a detailed standardizing process to follow for safe system of work. This is just kind of an example, like if changing a wheel is a process. So how we are chopping up into other steps. Like step number 1, park the car in a safe location. That is step number 1. For step number 1, we need to evaluate either any risk, is associated. If risk is associated, what is the probability or consequence of kind of like, severity. Then step 2 is remove equipment from boot. Step 3, loosen wheel nuts. Step 4, jack up car. Step 5, remove wheel nuts. Step 6, replace wheel and wheel nuts. Step 7, lower car and remove jack. Step 8, tighten wheel nuts. And step 9, replace equipment and boot. So just one process, changing a wheel, and you note down all the steps, and then accordingly you find out what can go wrong. Like identifying controls for each step. First identify the hazards, then identify the controls, and follow all the steps. Like, let's take an example. Step 1, changing the wheel might have hazards, traffic, risk of violence, control, select location of the road. If possible, use hazard light. If you feel area is unsafe at night, or if vulnerable group, call recovery service and stay in car. So what you are doing, you are identifying the hazards and you are putting controls accordingly. Now we have a group exercise, suggest hazards and control for each step of the work. Example, changing a wheel. Suggest hazards and control for each step of the work. Example, changing a wheel. We just give one example, like traffic, risk of violence, controls, select location of road, we discussed already. But for all those steps, what could be the hazard? Let's take one example, jack up car. Do you think, is there any hazard related to this step number 4 or any risk associated? Jack up car, you are using jack to, because the car have to be little up and then you can change the wheel actually. My question is there any hazard or risk associated? And what is the likelihood and the severity, if that jack up is failed? What is
yes, the jack, if it's not in the proper location, it will be slip and fall down the car while the tire is already out. So it's very hard to put it in the exact location again. So this is another hazard. So we need to prevent this one. To select the proper, and each car there is a proper location for the jack.
Absolutely.
To prevent it from falling down.
Absolutely right. Now, what is the probability? What numbers you're gonna get? That? Like, what is the probability of that risk? Like, you are telling toppling over or tipping over or slipping over because of the jack is not gravitationally on the leveled ground, or maybe
Yeah.
not placed in the right place. But the question is, what is the probability of that risk? You will give the number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. What number are you going to give?
This Jacob, the Jacob, that's 4.
So what is the probability of that failure? Like slipping off or toppling over or tipping over.
You mean the hazard can be happen? Yeah, yeah, that's personal injury. It's very.
Yeah.
This
No,
could
what
happen.
is what is the probability I'm talking about? Because of that, the sudden slip off, definitely the person could face injury. But what is the probability of that slipping off, or that jack failure, in other words? Because injury is consequence. I'm
Yeah.
talking about probability or likelihood.
Yeah.
You will go with the number 2, 3, 4, or 5. You will go with very likely or very unlikely, or what? What would be your take on it? These are the challenges while we perform risk assessment. That is why it should not be done individually.
That's right. Yeah.
Like the probability, we say 2, because very rare chances we noted that the jockey is failure, because we don't start until we are satisfied that the jack is well placed on the surface level ground and on the right place we are putting, and then we start that process. So the probability we can consider 2,
Yes.
but consequences are so high. If a person is underneath and now car is 5 tons or 10 tons, just an example, so terrible fatal kind of injury could be there. So imagine if probability is 2 or likelihood is 2, numbers we selected, and consequence we select 5. So 5 multiplied 2 is equal to 10. Now what that 10 number is all about? Should we put under yellow color or under red color? What our criteria is set down through our procedures, and every company have their own set of formula sometimes. So you can go back and see within Sadara risk metrics how you are calculating the likelihood and the severity, and what is the criteria for both elements, and based on what elements you are deciding either you will go with the number 3 or you will go with number 5. So I would appreciate if you re-study your internal risk assessment procedures and also evaluate the risk assessment registers of Sadara. And then inshallah, it will be so helpful, especially for IG2, the moment you will be preparing your risk assessment project, inshallah. Okay, now introducing controls and formulating procedures is often most difficult stage, because we require consultation and engagement, help, buy-in from workers, allow concerns to be raised and addressed during the development. It's not immediately we'll introduce all controls, And sometimes I say, Mr. Safety Leader, don't suggest the most expensive solutions to your top management. They will dislike you within maybe after 2 or 3 decisions, So don't suggest the most expensive solutions. Create a win-win situation. That is why we need team of experts in our risk assessment, or even in our safety committee, So then we can suggest some comprehensive controls with maybe low budget, easily approved by the management, and move on. And bringing the ultimate benefit, we want to get to bring that risk at acceptable level, or a low concern to be raised and addressed during the development. So opinion of others must be respected. Now, instruction and training, information, instruction, training, and supervision is important. May need detailed training in SSW, like safe system of work. Monitoring, we required, yes, monitoring is important. how it is being applied correctly, the SSW, or SSW is as safe as was intended. Whatever system we structured for each step, it is well being followed and achieving the desired results actually. Now we have another last topic of the day,